Astonishing Legends is supported by Squarespace, Movement Watches, Blue Apron, and Harrys.com.
And we're back with a foray into something completely different.
We hope everyone, in the States anyway, had a nice Thanksgiving holiday. And tonight, we're trying out something new that you'll find out about in short order.
Okay, let's get it going.
Welcome back to Astonishing Legends. I'm Scott Philbrook, and this is Forrest Burgess.
The internet is the first thing that humanity has built that humanity doesn't understand. The largest experiment in anarchy that we have ever had. Eric Schmidt, Executive Chairman of Alphabet Incorporated, parent company of Google.
And join us tonight for the first show that we've ever done that was actually streamed live on YouTube before it was published to our feed. This is an experiment. We only barely know what we're doing here, so we didn't make a big announcement about this prior to doing it. Don't be mad if you didn't know about it. If this works, we'll be doing it again, and as a listener, you'll know about it well in advance. We streamed this episode live on our YouTube channel yesterday and took questions via chat from listeners who joined us. We only announced it on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, so if you're not one of our followers on those platforms, you wouldn't have heard about it. We did that because there was more than a fair chance that the entire thing would crash and burn. Oddly, it worked. So we hopped into the studio today to record this intro and a few other things so we could finish out the live event and make it into a proper episode. Our idea was to have a general discussion and take questions from listeners via chat at YouTube regarding past and possible future topics, and just sort of an Ask Me Anything for any kind of questions that listeners might have had. That said, it's time to get off the script. This was all improvisational live conversation, so bear with us. Here's hoping it doesn't wind up like the new Coke, one of the worst ideas in history.
Well, I liked it.
We have received transmission, and you are live in 3, 2...
All right, we're a little late. Just going to stream now here. And we're coming back. We're not exactly sure when this starts, so I'm talking...
Did you press record?
Yes,
air?
I press record.
All right,
and
I guess we're back.
I think it's streaming right now. So the question is if anyone's going to watch. And how many thumbs down we'll get.
We've had 8 people say that they've seen it, right?
Yeah.
And 8 thumbs down so far. No, we've had 8 thumbs up. So thank you very much. If you've already clicked on us, it's a grand start. And thank you very much for, I guess, paying attention to your YouTube notifications that come up, right?
Yes. And I have a chat window open over here if you wonder what I'm doing. So now I can see when people are typing, like Jesse right now, who just said it's streaming really good, which is awesome.
Very nice.
So it's good to be here. We just wanted to say we're actually making this into a show. We're going to release this as the podcast. So if you watch this, you're going to be hearing it as the podcast later.
Yeah.
It remains to be seen how many people will be angered by that.
It's not our usual offering, but we thought it might be something fun, especially around the holiday time here, and also more interactive with the audience. So it all in all could be a good thing, unless we are horrible on camera, which I'm already very uncomfortable. But
oh, you do it all right.
We're here, yeah.
Well, I did the broadcast news thing where I pulled my shirt back. Like
I've already made a mistake. Since we have the lovely fireplace going, I'm now feeling very warm. So
it's going to be like 1,000 degrees. Okay, we might have to turn that off.
Uh-oh. All right. Yeah, I know. See, this is now going to get... Let's just do this get this out of the way, because that was the plan when we were all very calm and we weren't broadcasting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's already getting real.
It's broadcast news.
This first thing I want to say about this is the YouTube channel has just around 730 subscribers, I think. And we've had it for a while now. We did that video that some friends of the company did for Devil in the Diner, which was a fun show. And we're encouraging more listeners that have the ability to produce things like that, if they're inspired by one of the episodes, to make a short. And we have to check it. We're going to curate it.
Yeah, we can't promise we're going to air everything.
Yeah.
Because we're somewhat family friendly. And we probably want to keep it that way, but it could be. I mean, it could be dark and edgy. Yeah, no, it's like
we're also looking for things that are well made.
Absolutely, yeah. Devil in the Diner, which a very interesting show. Maybe the first thing we ever recorded.
Yeah, it didn't air first, but it was the first one that
didn't
ran.
air first. But what's interesting is that people love it or they do not, and they because it's a personal story, and some people just don't care for those, don't believe them, and then others think it's the coolest, creepiest thing we've ever done. And certainly, the animation is the coolest looking piece of visual.
Yeah, that video's on our
that we've
channel.
done. Yeah,
it's worth watching.
Those guys did an amazing job.
Yeah, that was Peter Sabatino. Yes,
and
Zeke O'Donnell.
A
couple of guys I used to work with in New York, very talented guys. And hello, Cogswell, the mad scientist who has his own show, Mad Scientist Podcast, and
Cogs, as we affectionately call him.
Yeah, Cogs.
Just us.
But it's nice. It's nice to have you guys all in here. I'm trying to think what else I wanted to cover. Let's see. So the YouTube channel, we started it to house those kind of videos, but we also wanted to do something more. We're trying to grow as a show and possibly create episodes like this that are live with video periodically. It's not something we're going to do all the time, but it's a fun way to interact further with you guys and take questions and that sort of thing. And so, we'll maybe be doing this once a month or once every other month or something like that until we get everything ironed out.
Yeah, it's one thing we talked about earlier today is that, we just feel terribly ashamed that, we got so many emails, and we've mentioned this quite a bit. And one day we'll get to them all. It might be a couple of years from now. But here's a kind of a quick way to interact with you and maybe take some questions directly from the listening audience. And that way it's immediate and, we don't feel as bad. So it's kind of a way of maybe a bit of an apology, but also we love you guys and the fact that you've been so vocal and sending us things that, again, we do read every one of them, but it's like, oh, so-and-so wants to know about an entire subject. It's like, I'm going to have to take some time to formulate an intelligent response. So then, of course,
it takes a long time. But when Forrest writes back,
it's pages, and then nobody ever writes back again. So that
he shuts them down.
You get your money's worth, and I think you're just confounded and flabbergasted. So,
we have somebody who is actually asking if we would do an episode on sanitariums.
Well, again, here's a good
shout out to Uncle Cracker on that one.
Is that a band? That's a band, isn't it? No, that was just Cracker.
Yeah.
Well, we've certainly had people ask about that, and I think I'm thinking if I can remember who asked about it very early on about. There's a famous one in Ohio, I guess. It's been shut down, of course. Yeah, they're all haunted, aren't they?
Yeah.
But the problem is that it's a very broad topic, so we'd have to find one that was particularly haunted or spooky and cover the history of that. But here again, it's like, we try and find topics for a show that can really be fleshed out into an entire topic. And that is, is there historical evidence for it? Are there eyewitness accounts? Can it be documented?
The Black Knight satellite. That was something we were talking about earlier today. A lot of people have asked about the Black Knight satellite, and it's a fascinating idea. And for those of you that don't know, that's this mysterious object that's in Earth's orbit that NASA has identified. You can see photographs of it online. But no one is copying to what it is. Although I think someone has said that it was space junk.
Well,
right?
it's everything. Yes, it's either it's swamp gas. That's their version of swamp gas. It's space junk, which it could very well be. What's intriguing about it, and personally, when people suggest it, like, oh man, I'm extremely curious. I would love to take my own shuttlecraft to go up and haul it back down here. Although that might set off an apocalypse of some kind.
Yeah, right.
But no, the idea is that it's very, I think, pretty dark black in color.
It also looks like something.
It looks like a chess. It looks like a horse's head from a chess piece, like a knight.
Yeah, a chess piece that Bruce Wayne would own.
Yeah, it's very modern and
angular,
Picasso-like, you could say, modernist, cubist, and so it doesn't exactly look like a horse head, but that's probably the closest thing. Approximation to something we have here on Earth.
But the problem with doing a whole story on this is that there's not a lot of data. There's not enough data yet for us to build that into a full episode. As you guys all know, anyone who's watching this, we're very long-winded. So we need a lot of information to choke through on something like that. So we're still waiting for that phone call from somebody who knows what the Black Knight is.
I mean, again, so here's something to consider. It's like, not for you, because please suggest anything that comes to mind. We still just love hearing about it. But for us to cover it as an entire episode, even in the briefest 90 minutes or 2 hours that we could do, there has to be certain elements to it. So if there was somebody who we could interview or had written something, it's like, I know exactly what it is, and this is way out and fringy, but here's what it is. That's something we could cover. The problem with it is that it's been photographed, So people know about it, but no one knows anything about it. So anything that we would talk about was purely conjecture.
We've basically covered the whole thing just now.
Yeah, that was one reason for bringing it up. Again, great topic, but it's something that would be a little hard until, maybe there's somebody who's like Richard C. Hoagland who talks about the dark side of the moon. Now that is something we could maybe talk about, just objects in near orbit or near the moon that are very unusual. But that's one subject where just punch that up into YouTube, dark side of the moon, and you are going to get a ton of some hokey videos, and some were like, well, that looks pretty good if that's special effects.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to talk about. And certainly there's ex-NASA, astronauts, Edgar Mitchell, talks about just what might be there. There are remote viewers. I just heard one, and I can't remember her name at the moment, who was on Coast to Coast being interviewed. Don't want to get too much.
Just a few weeks ago, right?
About a month ago, yeah. I was driving home after a very late night. We were doing our session, and it was a driveway moment where I had to hear the conclusions, which they say for last. And this person is a very high-level former government, I believe, runs her own organization for remote viewing and for training people. But her conclusions of what's on the moon and what's on Mars, mind-blowing. So,
it's right up there. It's right up there with a little bit with what we were talking about with the Mothman and Woody Derenberger's stories. It's like they start to get so fantastical that they either way have to be possibly true, or these people are completely out of their minds.
Well, here's the other thing. It's, for those of you that put stock into somebody's title, here's somebody that has worked on government levels and in military capacities. I believe is now a private citizen who, again, is running her own organization, but very high level, and is working with former military remote viewers, and they've all come up with similar conclusions. So again, it's not somebody who's, not to take anything away from good old Woody, but it's not just somebody driving home from work who saw something strange.
Yeah.
These are people that's their conclusions, and again, it's something I don't want to give too much away, but if you have access to Coast, or you're a member, you have to be a member. That's the one, I think, difficult part.
Oh, yeah, they're not. Well, they have the radio show.
They have the radio show.
It's an AM radio show.
Yeah, but I think to dig up in the archives or past shows.
Oh, right.
You might have to
because
subscribe.
It's not on demand.
Yeah, well, no, and I don't think it's very much pirated, so it'd be hard to find, but it was wild. So again, that's something in that area where we could say, like, okay, topic, dark side of the moon. It's very rich. There's videos we could point to. The only thing we could point to, Black Knight Satellite, is some photos, which are very intriguing, but like, maybe it is a giant crumpled up ball of black foil. I don't, who knows?
All right, let's talk. I want to take a look at some of these questions. So many people are.
Oh, really?
Right. We're getting a ton of information here. And I just want to take a quick look. What else we get? Somebody, we're awkward. Thank you, Jesse. She says,
we're awkward.
She or he says that's funny. I think it's Jesse.
Okay.
And then,
you should see what gets edited out of the audio program.
Yeah, so. We're about to find out whether or not we can do. But there was some question here I wanted to say. Really enjoying the shows. Look forward to what blah blah blah. Somebody asked, any personal stories anytime soon? It's funny with the personal stories. It's odd. We get more pushback on those. We don't get a lot of complaints, and I feel very fortunate about that, because considering how easy it is to be a troll these days, especially if you have social media presence.
Right.
We're not getting a ton of negative feedback, although there are some reviews that I want to read before we go off the air today.
There's a few gems.
Yeah, but some people don't seem to care for them. They're just, it's just these guys talking to their friends. I personally try to pick ones that I think are intriguing. Well, and obviously after a while you do run through your friends you've gone through, but there's some people that we haven't approached yet.
Right. There are some stories of people that we know personally that we haven't tapped. And again, because it has to be more than just kind of a one-off incident. There has to be something more to it that we believe, again, it flushes it out as a story. Some of our earliest complaints, I think, were like, these guys just tell weird stories of their friends.
Well, when we started out, there was a lot more of that.
And there was more of that. Yeah. And so what, but again, everything's even. Everybody's got an opinion on what they like or don't like, and they're very willing to share that with you. So what we've seen is that, people who just love personal stories because it's a personal connection. It's somebody, it's not just a story that we found on the internet and there's articles about it and we've culled a bunch of information together. People make a real human connection to these types of personal stories. And I would say out of most of, or what takes place mostly, are people telling us their own personal stories that they did not want to share before because they thought that they were the only ones, and they thought that they would be seen as crazy. And you know, as we found, sometimes relatives, your closest relatives, if you go around telling them these kinds of things, don't seem to call as often after that. So it's a very personal thing, and some people really love those. And then again, Scott said, you know, as Scott said, there are other people who are like, who cares? This is just somebody's weird story. It sounds like they made it up and they want the attention. So it depends on where you're coming from.
Ray Vega asks, is there anything too frightening for you guys to cover? I think
Not for me.
Yeah,
Yes,
he's
for
braver
Scott.
than I am.
And for somebody who doesn't, and this is what's interesting, is that I'll relate a personal story about with somebody I work, and they're not going to listen to this, but I told them to, so they might. But it's how you view it personally. Strange things, the paranormal in general. And for Scott, he's again, this is why we're doing this, is that he's got a very inquisitive mind. He's a research-based guy. He loves checking, you know, every venture that he goes into. If he suggests it to me, I'm fully in because I know he's done his research. So that's where he's coming from. But there are some leaps and bounds that maybe he didn't want to take initially, which I totally understand because it doesn't make sense. It's not rational. So he's kind of like, let's see some proof. Let's study this. Let me see if I can find a way in to want to believe or an angle in. So as we've been doing this, there's a few things where I think he's like, I'm not checking that out ever.
Well, I'm
like, yeah.
You know, I'm still waiting to personally experience something because I have had some unusual experiences with sort of, you know, the hair standing up on the back of my neck and bone chilling feelings. But those are the kinds of things that you can't corroborate with anybody else. You can't relate it to anyone else. And maybe it's psychosomatic. Yeah. So I still don't take that as hard evidence that I'm experiencing something unusual. But I will say that when we started out, I was inclined to think that we were going to stumble across less things that wigged me out than we have.
Oh, so you've been a little bit surprised.
Yeah, and
more things that actually that you didn't know about the story, or that.
Well, I mean, for instance, Greyfriars Kirkyard, which I always joked about, and you know that was back when we were doing way too many sound effects.
Probably a year or two. We timed them better, and yes, that's the kind of story that I would say more people than not seem to enjoy the kind of the spooky ambiance because it is a little bit of radio theater.
For me, the priest that went there,
and
in an attempt to exorcise the Black Mausoleum, who was I can't remember now because we did that story so long ago, but I think he was
Colin. I think his first name's Colin.
Yeah, he was in his 40s, maybe.
No, he was in his early 60s.
Oh, so he was older. I'm sorry, not to dismiss what happened to him.
No,
but essentially he went there, and 6 months later he was dead. He had been in good health prior
maybe
to
a month.
that. Yeah.
God, it's been so long.
For me, whether I believe or not, I don't particularly want to go to a place where something might get attached to me.
Why risk it? Yeah. You know, why go there and poke the bear?
I will watch you with the binoculars.
Well, it's again, and it's funny because this has come up from time to time again, and just between us personally, like, you know, he always jokes that like you're the guy who says, well, nothing will happen to me. I'm sure I'll be fine. You know, it's like I won't be affected by the earthquake or this and that. And really, to explain that better, is that I don't think that something won't happen to me. It's just a law of averages that usually nothing happens to me that's of that nature. So for me to go there would be, one of my first really kind of bone-chilling paranormal experiences.
Happens. I mean, we have plenty, and sorry, I bumped my mic, but we have plenty of listeners that have gone and nothing has happened.
No, and that's what we say. Look, that's what you have to take away, is that we're always telling these stories and relaying these people's, probably the best stories of their life.
Yeah.
The top two are things that have ever happened to them that are the most interesting things that I'm sure they save for the zinger at the dinner party. So these things are very rare. But it's always that way. It's like, look at Skinwalker Ranch. You know, if we combine all the stories, it's like, oh my God, this place is a hotbed of crazy antics and unexplainable things and things being cored. But when but that's what Bigelow said. If you were to go there, or George Knapp, it's like probably nothing's going to happen. It'll be hot and dusty, and there's cows, and it'll smell like cow dung, and then that's it.
It's a desert ranch.
Yeah, it's a desert ranch, and so. These things that happen at supernatural places or at in people's lives are still pretty few and far between. Now, the difference is that if you go to Greyfriars, it's just more likely that something strange is going to happen there because it has a history of that.
There is another story that I am a little trepidatious about covering, which
the gateway to hell.
No, that's easy. Dulce is a little disconcerting to me because of the possible connections to the military and that.
Okay, that's another thing, and that's something we always tell people is like, look, this endeavor is very generally called legend tripping.
Oh, by the way, we should tell people for the ones that don't know what Dulce is.
Dulce Base.
Yeah, Dulce Base,
which means sweet in Spanish.
Yeah,
it's not. It's not all that sweet, I think.
Yeah, and it's not far from Skinwalker. It's
that whole. Let me see. It would be northeastern or just off of center axis to the east in New Mexico. So you have White Sands not too far away. It is a land of enchantment. We'll tell you that. It's again that whole Southwest is got a lot of very interesting and cool things going on, and some possibly dangerous things. Now, Scott just mentioned something that I was getting to is that when you if you ever do decide to visit these places, you have to take extreme caution, and we certainly don't recommend going on a private property. You have to get permission from the owners. If it's government property, there's a sign at Area 41 that Deadly
51.
Fort. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There is an Area 41. There's different areas that are numbered.
Yes.
That just happens to be Area 51.
Yeah.
That lethal force
is authorized.
Lethal force is authorized, which they're going to escort you off, and they're going to take your name and your license plate number, and probably nothing's going to happen. Except I know a friend of a friend where he got a MIB visit after
Men in Black.
He had some Men in Black show up at his door, asked him questions after he visited Area 51. So that's a whole other story, but that's the whole of the story. No, what we're getting at is that there's places I'd be very cautious about visiting or poking around because there's a law enforcement or military, government angle.
Well, and the thing with Dulce, and I'll just be brief on this, but the thing with Dulce is that it's the show that Byrne, what's his name?
Bill Burns.
Bill Burns, yeah.
William Burns
had done
PhD. Yeah.
They had the show that was highly rated and was doing UFO hunters, and I actually knew somebody that worked on that show, a production assistant or a producer's assistant, and they were doing well, and they had made plans to cover Dulce Base, and were unceremoniously canceled immediately. Now you can't. Now, no one can cancel us because we're a podcast, but we could be personally canceled, which I'm not interested in.
No, what would happen is like all your credit cards are canceled, and you've got
you're being audited.
For the last 10 years.
Yeah. So that worries me a little bit, but I got to admit that there's supposed to be the underground levels and the cows with human heads, and it sounds intriguing.
Well, again, I heard an interview with somebody. Not a middle-aged guy, probably his late 30s, early, maybe mid-40s, who is a police officer there. His father was a longtime police officer in the area, and he's culled all these stories together and did his own research. And what I love about this, and maybe Cogs will love this too, because it always comes down to the scientific viewpoint, and that you hear about all these strange, crazy things happening, and alien human battles, things escaping, searchers looking for weird cryptids that have escaped, so all these crazy stories have happened. And so this guy, this former police officer, had tried to get to the bottom of all this. And again, here's the conclusion that I love is that most of it, maybe 95%, take out of 100 cases, 95, 96 are explainable. It's either it's their scavenger animals that have picked at something. There's something that can be pointed to that makes more sense than not. What I love is that there are 4 of those cases out of the 100 that are totally unexplainable by any rational means, which is like, this is so weird. We can't even begin to explain what happened.
Yes.
So that usually boils down to every case that we look, the thing that we look at is like, yes, most of this is explainable, except for these things, which could be, alien hybrid, hunters
running free,
running crazy. So,
all right. For listeners of the podcast, we have to take a quick break, and we'll be back in a minute.
Hey, Scott, you ever get any of those family holiday newsletters?
You mean the flyers folded up with the Christmas card humble bragging about what everyone in the family is up to? Yeah, we still have a few die-hard, old-school relatives who go to the trouble of sending those out.
Well, why wait for the holidays? They could be humble bragging all year long with a Squarespace website. What they probably don't know is that Squarespace makes it just as easy to put all those updates, pictures, and videos on a family website of their own.
Plus, it would look so much better, and they wouldn't be limited to 1 page or 2 or 3 or 7.
Yeah, if you're lucky. And it's not just for family news or your personal blog, because Squarespace is also the easiest and fastest way to sell your homemade goods or personal services, like Aunt Patty's knitted scarves or Cousin Barney's snowplow service.
You're talking about Squarespace's e-commerce functionality, like their search engine optimization, so people can find you on the web, and their free and secure hosting, so you or your buyers don't get hacked.
Exactly. And if you're serious about building your business, Squarespace's analytics can help you grow it in real time. Also, everything's already been optimized for mobile devices, so your customers can buy from you anytime, anywhere. As they say, it's an all-in-one website solution.
With Squarespace, all you have to do is buy your domain name and choose from over 200 extensions like .biz or .tv instead of the tired old .com. Pick one of their elegantly designed templates, customize your look with a few clicks, and you're ready to go.
And their 24/7 award-winning customer support will never leave you hanging. They take care of all the patches and updates behind the scenes so you don't have to.
See how beautiful your business, wedding website, or family brag blog could look by checking out Squarespace with a free trial. Just go to squarespace.com, start browsing, and when you're ready to launch, use the offer code LEGENDS to save 10%.
Squarespace. Make it beautiful.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, and you're listening to Astonishing Legends with Scott Philbrook and Forrest Burgess. Now back to the show.
I did want to say, let's see, we had a couple of other questions. A lot of people, Latinkus, as well as some other people, are asking about the rules. And before we go into that, I also want to address one other question. Native Dine 93.
Dine.
Native Dine, excuse me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, sorry, that's the Navajo people.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Native Dine 93 wants to know if we believe in a higher power.
Another good one for when we come back.
Yeah.
Which-
So we're back now. Where are you? You don't have to worry
Dang,
about
I was
that.
going to walk away and have a soda.
We're back now.
Because I'm
We're going to splice the ad. Forrest doesn't really get how this all works. But
No.
We're going to splice the ad in. I'm kidding.
Thank you.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I totally got it. I was just kind of hoping.
We don't have to take a real break.
No, I understood that. It was just an irrational hope.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're back. We're back from the break.
Yeah.
What's the first one you want to handle?
Do we believe in a higher power?
You want that's
a big
yeah.
question.
It's a very personal question, and my belief is like, look, it's as far as what we believe. Well, if it's a goofy story, we're going to give you our conclusions. If it's something very personal, I don't mind sharing that. But I believe that and this was my prediction before we started this, is that Scott's viewpoint on everything would change slightly, because I knew the path that we're going to head down, and I knew the questions that would be coming up, and because again, it makes you question your own beliefs, and that's the thing. That's the one thing that makes people the angriest, but also the most inspired, the most interactive with us. Because when it comes down to personal belief, that's everything. And
People get mad. They get real mad.
They get very mad.
If we cover something that they don't personally believe, that's when we can get some vitriolic feedback.
Yeah, and look, some of it is that I don't think. Yes, they're directing it towards us or our subject that we've interviewed, or the person telling their story. But what I believe deep down is part of it is that the other part is that they are now questioning their own beliefs subconsciously. Because again, it all depends. Like, they always say this, what would you do if your best friend that you've known since childhood told you a crazy story, like some of the ones that we've heard, whether it's Dr. Ferber's story, Are We Ever Alone, or and again, the one that hits close to home for me is the Sludge Entity series. And somebody tells you this, like, what do you say? Like, well, I know this guy's not crazy. I've known him since childhood, but he didn't know what he was seeing. Okay, that's one way to handle that. What if you believe that he did see something strange? Then what does that say? Are these things possible? What do you now believe? And because the people that these things happen to will tell you one thing. It's like with the devil in the diner. We've had a couple of comments like, well, that's a stupid story. She just saw somebody weird at a diner in New York in middle of the night. You're going to see somebody strange. That doesn't make, that's not a story. You weren't there experiencing that. And the fact that two separate people.
Well, yeah. And again, you're talking about knowing somebody personally. I've known Paula Pell for, I guess, going on 12 years now.
Yeah.
She is street savvy. You don't live in New York City for dozens of years and not get to know when somebody is dangerous or not dangerous or different. Your instinct just gets really at a higher level when you're living with people like that. In other cities in the United States anyway, you spend all your time in the car or out in the country by yourself or whatever. But in New York, you are down in it all the time, and you do develop a heightened sense of awareness. And I trusted her judgment in that story.
Absolutely. And it's also her job to study character and write about it. So she's paying a lot more attention than the average person. And in the legal sense, they would call it a trained observer.
Yeah.
So anyway, getting back to that, it's like the way that she described it, and I do believe her every word of it, and also what her friend experienced is that it's such a soul-shaking experience that you can't properly relay that to somebody. You can't make them feel that. And you could say like, well, that's just your nervous system reacting, but for two people to do it at the same time, again, that opens up a very interesting question. Now, getting back to the main point is that we say this all the time, you don't know really, I believe, what you believe until you experience something like that. That makes you question your beliefs.
That changes your whole belief.
Your whole
aspect. Atheists and foxholes thing. And that's the thing. I will say, I know that we have a lot of atheists that listen to the show, and I know that we have people of faith, all different faiths, that listen to the show.
Yeah.
I don't think it's upon us to necessarily share our personal views, so I'm not putting you on the spot to do that. But I will just say that I am not an atheist. I have described myself in the past as agnostic.
He's
open-minded.
He's looking.
I believe in the Force. Yeah, kind of like I sort of trend towards, I think, a Buddhist philosophy overall.
Right.
Energy, positives and negatives, and the universe balancing itself out, which is something that our show has actually further entrenched for me. Regardless of the wrapper that you put on it as a belief system, I do feel like there is a scale that is self-correcting.
So there you go, kind of a universal force.
Yeah.
So he's heading that way, and he's, you know what I'm saying, like.
And by the way, my sister, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt because
sure.
that's what I do. My sister-in-law and her husband are both ordained Methodist ministers, and he has a doctorate in theology. And I've had lots of deep discussions with them.
And
about
they still tolerate his crazy thinking.
Yeah, well, we're hoping to have him as a guest, or both
Dr.
of them
Tim
as a guest on the show at some point. But anyway,
it's okay for myself. Yes, I will say again, not to. And what's interesting is that people who claim a different denomination, it's like then it gets down to like, wait, are they Methodist, or are they Methodist? Okay, that there you go. That's why they're a little crazy.
Yeah.
So it gets down to tribalism in a way, and just kind of compartmentalizing what branch of faith you believe. But I will say, yes, very generally, I do believe in a higher power, and I do believe that it's everything is everything. It's all kind of one thing. Everything's being controlled, though, by, I don't know if you'd call it a singular consciousness, but we are here for a purpose. I do believe that, and why this all is the way it is. Why do things seem so crazy? Why do things that happen that aren't supposed to happen seem to happen? We may never know, but those are the answers that we're looking for. So yes, yes. For me personally, I believe in God. So
there we go.
All right.
Rolando Mota, if I'm saying your name right, Rolando, wants to know where you're from.
Well, there's you know what? All I'll say is there's clues here and there. There is a reason why, and it's become a running gag. I mean, I think at first, I can't remember how it came up, is that, I don't know if Scott mentioned it in some way. Generally, where I'm from, there is somebody that might potentially get harassed. That's all I can say. So it's not a big deal.
The plot thickens.
If you put the clues together, if you listen to past episodes, I may have even mentioned it directly once. It's not too hard to figure out. And certainly if you know me or went to high school with me, you know exactly where I'm from. It's not such a mystery, shall we say. And it's kind of fun, again, to kind of play off that. But no, what I will say, and again, we've not received anything threatening or too vicious, but we've had some strange communications from people that I believed if they knew more information, it wouldn't be beyond them to, again, maybe not act out physically, but you never know. So it's like, you know what, to keep these people who might easily be identified and who aren't going to understand what's happening if something like that did, it's to protect them. So it's not really, again, it's not a big deal. You could probably put the clues together.
Yeah.
And I'll just say this right now, at this very second, if you look around in the mise en scène of this tableau, there is a clue.
Is there?
Well, it will lead you to it, but it won't be the exact thing. Don't look at my T-shirt.
No, I'm not. I was looking for the clue. I can't.
Okay, yeah. Anyway, that's it. We like to. It's kind of fun. No, I will say very generally. I was born and raised and grew up, and I've been here in the Southern California area much longer than where I grew up now, just because I moved down here for school and for work. But yeah, I would say generally Eastern Washington, Northern Idaho, Western Montana.
Never less than 3 states.
No, but actually, when you're from there, you kind of, and it's interesting. You kind of, that's where you kind of claim your stomping ground is, because we're always taking trips. People have vacation properties in another state, so that's all very similar, and it's all very close together. So, like, if we would hop in the car, I-90 runs through, I think all the way. I don't know how far east it goes, but it goes to Seattle. So, if you get on I-90, you can be in 3 states in an hour.
Yeah, that's true.
So, where you're from. Central-ish North Carolina.
Yeah, I was actually born near Death Valley because my dad was a civil servant at the China Lake Naval Base. And then when I was 2, I moved to Denver, and until I was 9, I lived in Denver, and then I moved to Raleigh, North Carolina, which is where I consider myself as being from. I grew up more in North Carolina, although Denver has a special place in my heart. Right. Death Valley, not so much. Yeah, I love Death Valley.
No,
to visit,
it's cool.
I don't know that I'd want to live
there. It's very hot there.
Yeah, it's
unless you're in an underground secure bunker.
It's a cool place. It's a very awesome place.
No, there are some very interesting things to check out.
Panamint City, which is something that we've talked about, which is a lost gold mine. There's if you ever look at the landscape in the desert Southwest, you see with the cliffs and the valleys, there are these slopes at the base of them that's called an alluvial fan, which is where the erosion creates. If you famously have seen any of the Westerns with John Wayne or even the, I can't remember, no, those might have been shot in Italy, but a lot of the ones that have been shot in Monument Valley, where you see the mitten and the skirt at the bottom of it, that's an alluvial fan. And in Death Valley, I believe it's in Death Valley proper, there is an alluvial fan that came down there was a river and there was a mining town called Panamint. And it used to be you could go off-roading there, but you had to have a very sophisticated vehicle because it's really
very
hard.
Rugged, yeah. I mean, to get into, but there is a little general store. There's one guy that lives there with his dog, I think, and he's got like a little provision shop,
Yeah, and I feel like we have a listener that works in that area, actually, now that I think about it. But
I think you're right.
But that manages a hotel or something near there. But Panamint had all their payroll in a safe for the miners when a flash flood flooded the town and just wiped it out down the fan into the valley. And the safe was supposedly filled with just hundreds of thousands of dollars in gold,
the Wells Fargo payroll had just come in.
Right.
So here's the story: is that it was a flash flood. The other great background is like Bodie. It was a very wild, town because you got a lot of miners with money and a lot of booze, and it's a boom town, and so a lot of things are going on. Not much law enforcement, or they couldn't really control things. I can't remember if it's Bodie or if it's. Because these were written about by local newspapermen, and I can't remember if it's Bodie or it could have been Panamint City, but it got so bad, there were so many gunfights that they started putting boilerplate on the saloon walls because people were shooting through from one saloon into the next, and people were getting hit that weren't even involved in the fight. But the story is they had a bad torrential rain, which can happen in the desert. Quick note here. I don't know why, but if you are a European listener and you're interested in coming out to the American West, the southwestern desert, that happens a lot. It's a very treacherous place. Yes. We just had people that got lost and passed away.
Yeah.
You should not go in summer. You should go in winter, and you must take provisions. You have to take extra water. And
I know it sounds
kind of silly, but they see it as cool, and they come out here. And
you don't realize how remote it is until you have
if you get
car
stuck,
trouble.
if you get stuck, it doesn't even have to be that hot. There's a famous story. It was in the LA Times here. where a famous kind of a Dutch DJ, I believe, and his German girlfriend came out to visit. They had a rental car for the day, Dodge Charger. It wasn't even that hot out. It was probably like early spring, like March, but it'll get up to, 85, 95 in the day. They got the car stuck. He made it a couple of miles. He decided to get out and walk. He made it a few miles, dropped dead from heat exhaustion by the side of the road. She went after him a few hours later. She made it about a mile. So nothing to fool around with. Anyway, but getting back to the story, and you can get caught in a flash flood if it starts to look like bad weather. And this is what happens in the desert. It just starts pouring rain. As it was described, there was maybe a 15 to 20 foot wall of water that come down the ravine, took everything with it.
Flash floods, and that's another thing when you're out there, you don't realize how dangerous they are because the rain, you can be crossing a dry gulch. The rain happens miles and miles away. You have no idea about it, and especially if you're not paying attention to the weather. But what happens is it all washes down, and it comes down these gullies. And if you've got your car in the middle of it or you're having a picnic and taking a photograph, it can sneak up on you like a tsunami and take you out in a matter of seconds.
Yeah,
by the time you hear it,
again, it's hard to. These are very abstract kind of things, and unless you've been in one, it's hard to picture in your mind. But it can happen. So if you think like a very heavy safe that weighs 500 pounds, can be washed away, and certainly we don't have to tell people that have been in some of the more places that have had floods or that have experienced tornadoes and hurricanes. If you've been in one, you can see what can happen. Pieces of straw get stuck into trees and fence posts.
Yeah, I've seen that myself with hurricanes at the coast in North Carolina. I've seen straw from hay impaled into a telephone pole.
Yeah, force equals mass times acceleration. So it can be very dangerous. So we don't have to tell you these things, but if you're from a part of the country that's relatively calm, maybe you've had some giant hail. It's hard to imagine these things, but they can happen. So that's the story. A flash flood came through. A lot of deaths. I don't know how many people survived, but it carried a lot of people. You may. Speaking about the act of God, who knows? It was a very wicked town. Some people think it was an act from a higher
Sodom and
power,
Gomorrah kind of thing.
Yeah, it got washed away. So then it's just all washed out in this alluvial fan. So now you're talking about 3, 4, 5 feet of mud, and somewhere is that safe out there if you could find it.
Oh, and this is the thing I always wonder though: if you find the safe and you declare it, you have to go through the government. There's taxes and discovery fees.
Depends on what state you find it in. They have different laws about.
So you might not always say that you found it if you found it. And this is the thing with every treasure. You don't, even, God forbid, Oak Island, something could have been pulled out of there 100 years ago and not necessarily announced.
Right.
So,
that happens because, and again, there's other countries where people don't even want to go looking for anything because for all your hard work, the government's going to own all of it. Yeah. And for you to claim your small percentage, it basically they're going to tie you up in court for years, and you're just going to give up. So, here though, if you were to find that, I believe again, if it's on BLM land or if it's
that's the Bureau of Land Management,
right?
They manage all the property that is not privately owned. Yeah. And especially in the Southwest, and in fact, they're the ones that the guys who had the sit-in. Not the Dakota Access Pipeline, but prior to that, the ranchers who were being denied grazing land that overtook that office. That was Amelia. That was a BLM office, I think, that they took over.
Yeah, it's a national refuge, I believe. Yeah, animal refuge. Yeah, that's the other thing is that there are different rules. If it's a national monument, if it's a national park, you're not really supposed to be digging around taking anything out of there, I believe. But the rules vary. So check your local listings, as they say. You have to really check the local laws. And that's why I say don't go trespassing and poking around for stuff unless you fully checked it out and you're sure you're allowed to do that. And what are the rules if you do find something?
Yeah. All right. So it's time for another quick break. We'll be right back. So, Forrest, have you finished all your holiday shopping?
Haven't even started. What about you?
Well, you know what? I'm trying to decide who gets a movement watch.
Oh, you've actually come up with a great gift idea for once. I'd love to get one of those as a gift.
Everyone loves getting a watch as a gift, and with movement watches starting at just $95, you can deliver a lot of style and class and not bust your holiday gift budget.
Well, the great thing about Movement Design is that it features modern yet classic lines for both men and women, so you don't have to worry that it's so funky and cluttered looking that the person's not going to dig it. And they can personalize it with interchangeable bands that suit their look. Movement also carries a line of super cool sunglasses to help you battle that low winter sun.
The craftsmanship is really solid too, so I have no hesitation in gifting anything from Movement. And with free shipping and free returns, it'll be the easiest holiday shopping I'll be doing this year. Get 15% off today by going to movementwatches.com/legends.
That's mvmtwatches.com/legends. Gift the movement.
Hello, everyone. I'm Erin Humphreys, and this is Astonishing Legends. Let's get back to the show.
Okay, see now, that's the end of the break
Yeah.
for us.
And now we're back?
Yeah, we're back.
What thank goodness I went to the restroom before all this.
Yeah. So
But
I do want to talk about.
yeah.
People are asking about the rules, and
that's
so we got a
another
couple of questions queued up here. Maria, who is one of our most interactive listeners and a participant in the ARC. Also, Cogswell's in here. Tess is in here.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things that we need to talk about.
Okay.
So I'm going to queue up some of the questions that you guys have brought up. One, we'll talk a little bit about Oak Island and what's going on there because someone has brought up being frustrated with the way the show's proceeding. And we'll talk
Not
about
our show.
No.
The TV show.
Well, I'm
Good.
sure there's that too.
There's that. They gave up after part 4.A.
Right. 4A, 4B.
After the
we just did a
8th hour.
5-parter and we snuck it under the radar as 4A and 4B.
Yeah. Was that the longest?
I think it is the longest we've ever done.
Well, yeah.
But, we had things to say.
That's the thing. We get to say what we want.
But what I did want to talk about was, we'll talk about that. Well, let's talk about the rules a little bit.
Okay.
People are asking about that. And let's also talk about, people are asking about the Somerton man, the recent announcement. That's a pretty quick and easy one.
Yeah.
That announcement, like a lot of announcements, was not the one that just happened, was not necessarily new information.
You're TSM here. Somerton
Yeah,
Man?
the Somerton man story. We thought it was going to be big news, or a lot of people did. I actually personally didn't think it would be. It's kind of like the Amelia Earhart one that just happened. That was not a big announcement either.
No, I mean, it filled Somerton Man. It was the DNA findings, right? And who was the? She's fantastic. I think she's a DNA genealogical.
Oh yeah,
researcher.
I can't remember her name. We're in touch with her actually.
Yeah,
so I can't remember
right.
her name now.
We had contacted her, and this is before I believe this announcement came out. But that's something that she was working on. Is that because, as you know, there are DNA samples of the Somerton man from that plaster cast that you can actually see in one of the YouTube videos because as they did it post-mortem, there are chest hairs stuck to it.
I went to look for her name in my in my Google inbox. I'm like searching genealogist, and all I found was a reminder that says call genealogist.
That's
Doesn't
very
have her
helpful.
name.
Yeah.
I can't remember her name. But she has a business that specializes in finding people and for people who are trying to find deceased relatives or make connections. That's what she does.
She's kind of a genealogical detective.
Yeah, and she had said that she had future stories she wanted to talk to us about, but she had to wait until they broke, and she was able to tell the loved ones first. Yeah, so I actually going to reach back out to her. But
that's the thing. There's still possible relatives of his.
Yeah,
I believe though that with the discovery of the DNA analysis, that she was able to pinpoint that he and his ancestry came from the Virginia, but along the northeastern seaboard.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, not too far from where the Kukowskis grew up, actually.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
and there was a connection to Thomas Jefferson, a genetic connection to Thomas Jefferson.
Right.
But this was all information that was already known, and if you listen to our series, we talked about it. So she wasn't divulging anything new there. I do think she's working on new information that hasn't been released yet. I think what happened was she went on the road and was expected to speak somewhere, and she spoke about something that was maybe not widely known, but if you're a listener to our show, you already knew it. And the same thing, and this is the same thing, I want to say this exact same thing with Amelia Earhart and the bones on Nikamororo, which is where Tygar is currently researching. And for us, history will prove us one way or the other, I guess, on this. But
I'm right about that one.
Saipan, are you coming down on Saipan?
No, that she was taken prisoner by the Japanese.
That's what I think too. We're reasonably certain that is, there may be some mystery as to what happened prior to her getting to Saipan.
Well, how she got off course, how that happened was did she get riddled with bullets, and that's what forced her to either go off course or land.
Right.
Where her and Fred Noonan weren't planning, how that happened. But from our perspective, and just again, I put a lot of stock into. eyewitness accounts of people that seemed kind of rational and sane. And of course, people came and, had emailed us and said, well, maybe these old Marines and sailors didn't know what they were looking at, or they're just, they're bragging. And I can tell you from personal experience, World War II was such a horrific event that when my grandfather told me stories, like, you just feel it. Like, he's not joking. This is not, he told you a lot of humorous things that went on too, but the more horrific things they didn't talk about, because there's some things that they just didn't want to relive, and they didn't want anybody else to have to experience that. But something like this, when they told you, it's like, I believe there are kernels of truth there. That plus the over 200 reports of local Saipanese.
Yeah, the witnesses.
The witnesses
who didn't even have a word in their dialect for lie.
Yeah, a white woman and a white man.
Yeah.
Were taken prisoner by the Japanese.
Yeah. But still, what happens is Rick Gillespie, who heads up Tigar, who I still have a tremendous amount of respect for, because I'm not convinced that what he's doing is necessarily nefarious or whatever. I think he's just barking up the wrong tree. And the other thing that happens is when he needs to go out to that island and take a trip, it costs several $100,000. So it's an opportune time to do a press release about something that's been found that might be connected. Yeah, it helps you drum up money. And
this is the thing, when you kind of this will be helpful in general when you read, especially these days in this climate, when you read news stories, is be a little bit of a news detective and see how things are worded. It's like I think they believe they took it to a forensic analyst. They had a measurement. They didn't have the actual bone. They had a measurement of her radius, or ulna, I believe it is, her forearm bone.
Yeah.
Radius is thumb side, ulna is the other side.
I know, because I broke my radius
clean. Oh, you did? That's right.
Clean in half.
Yes, when it was very painful.
Young man. Yeah, well, that wasn't the first time was a little painful. When the doctor broke it 2 weeks later after it had been healing again because it had been set incorrectly.
Yeah.
That was really painful.
And you screamed like a teenage boy.
I hyperventilated and nearly passed out.
That sounds like my dental trip yesterday.
Yeah. We digress.
Another story. But listen to the way it's phrased, is that they took the measurement, and then this is what I love. And again, this is the one article that I read that about the new discovery, the findings. So they took it to the measurement and a forensic analysis.
That's right.
Analyst, excuse me.
Oh, forensic analyst. Okay.
Took a photo where he could see a partially exposed forearm of Amelia and did a calculation that way. So it's an educated guess. It's not like they had a bone and like, well, I don't know, that looks, that all lines up.
But the problem is, and I think we covered this when we did the show, when we did the series, and it's been a while, and as you can possibly imagine now, we've done 50 plus episodes, and we are collecting a huge amount of data about stories like this, and sometimes the details get fuzzy after a while. But they already had found bones on the island. There were times when there were natives living there, even though it was a very small island, and there was evidence of burials that had been there that weren't
glass beads.
Not necessarily related to Amelia.
Part of a folding knife, I believe, on I can't remember if that was Howland or one of the islands there. Yeah, so artifacts can be found because as you realize, the Polynesians, as they travel great distances, they want to disembark for a bit, stretch their legs, or collect seabird eggs, whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
So for maybe thousands of years, there's been visitation on these islands, and over that amount of time, people drop things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again,
or hang out for a minute and leave their stuff there. Whatever.
Forget their freckle cream.
Yeah, the freckle cream jar.
Their high-heeled beige low-rise pump, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So the fact that you found something that's maybe a woman's article of that time period is like, well, that's intriguing. It should be investigated. Doesn't really point to Amelia.
I don't know. Yeah. And this is pure speculation, so I probably shouldn't say it, but I'm not convinced on that trip that she would have taken freckle cream with her. I don't know how important that is.
I don't know. She was a tough gal.
Yeah. I just don't like, I have to get my freckle cream. I don't know.
You know what?
She's got to worry about staying alive.
She had a sinus drainage tube, I think, coming out of her head or her sinuses. The bathroom is not much of a bathroom at all.
No, they had to crawl over gas tanks
to get to the back
on the Electra-10E.
I don't think she was really worried about all that. Like,
no, she's going to crawl back there.
Going to see me not very well made up today. Again. She's a tough pioneer woman. So she is not. Again, maybe she does get photographed when she lands places, and there's going to be newsreel footage, but maybe not such a big deal. But like, how did that get there? That could be a very interesting story, or nothing at all. Like, somebody dropped it.
Yeah.
Like,
but it's not. It's not hardcore proof, and that's the thing to remember. But and here's the other thing. Saipan, we may never find anything, because the story is that when the government did conclude that she had been held prisoner there and possibly executed there, they sent a mop-up team, and theoretically she and Fred both may have been dug up and moved and disappeared permanently.
Well, you don't know that could be,
and the plane was supposedly burned, or
strafed, and
there was that director. The director was looking for, the one documentary director was looking for it, and I don't think he found anything on his first incursion into the field looking for remains. But it may be that this is one of those things we'll never know unless some Freedom of Information Act or something later, or after a certain number of years, they say, hey, you know what? Because she had said that there were spy cameras in the belly of her plane.
That she may or may not have known about.
They were in there, but there was a gentleman who said he installed them.
Who said that he did install those on the plane. Now, I could see this. If you get captured by the Japanese at that time period, well, they're going to hold you for questioning, because, again, white woman, white man, what are you doing out here? That's very unusual. Once they find the cameras on board, now the story has changed. You are now a spy. They don't take kindly to that.
Yeah.
Actually, nobody does.
No.
Yeah.
That's still frowned upon. Spying is frowned upon.
And you were not held to, not that they follow the Geneva Convention very closely, either any of the Axis powers. But once they found that out, you're free and clear to be pretty much done away with. So I would say at that point, they probably just held her, and it's like, look, we're about to get overrun here by the U.S. Navy.
If they find out we've had her these couple of years,
it's
not good.
Right.
It's a no-win situation.
It doesn't look good for anybody. And again, if she's found alive, it's like, wait, how did you get here? Well, the Navy put me up to this. It's
and then on top of that, that would imply that she was abandoned. Not imply, but it would prove that she had been abandoned by the U.S. government.
Well, they put her on a perilous trip. She's America's sweetheart. You got to remember at this time, she's in all the papers, she's in all the newsreels, everyone's rooting for her, and you put her on this mission, didn't tell her about it, and then she gets captured. That doesn't look great. So again, it's just better if it all just kind of goes away and remains a mystery. So but getting back to that recent discovery, am I right? That was the big claim, is that they had found a bone fragment that may have been hers. That was the
claim. And it was something that I think they'd had for a long time, just like with the piece of the Electra 10E that they said they had that was part of her plane, but was
the hatch.
But under analysis, it was shown. Other engineers said no, that's not. It's not from an Electra 10E. So it's a little dicey. So that's anytime you see a new announcement about something, you got to take that with a grain of salt. But
certainly report on it. We want to,
we'd love to hear about it.
We love to hear the, from a news standpoint, I love to hear any kind of updates at all.
But if you see the word solved in the headline,
mystery,
that's your first red flag.
In all caps. It's in a very general sense clickbait. For everything. So and again, now what's funny is that you're seeing journalism take a cue from internet stories and adopting some of the phraseology that you're seeing, that was relegated to crap on the internet. So so it's again mystery solved, or you won't believe this, or who looks like this now.
Right.
So it's all these. You'll see these trends kind of come up again and again, and again, do your own detective work. Read the article and look for keywords. It's like, again, it was like a fragment of the bone that and also too, the bone. No, there was nothing. If you look at it, there was nothing definitive. And what I love though is that it was compared to a photograph where a partial arm, a forearm was. It's like they didn't even see the full forearm.
Yeah.
And the guy's going, well, all right, if I take the ruler millimeter wise and I line up here, it's pretty close. It's just like, and I'm sure he was, give us an answer. It's like, oh yeah, probably, maybe, sure, okay.
Yeah, that could be it.
That could be it, not definitive. So again, but again, we love these stories. We're always, the other thing that we're always looking at is an amazing story that seems to drop off and you never hear the conclusion.
Oh yeah.
And we're like, well, what happened with that? Well, no one's looking into it, or nobody wants to talk about it anymore, so it kind of goes away. But we always want to know what was the final conclusion on that.
Yeah, I think what the hallmark for that one is the hospital where the strange smell.
That was
all
a
the people
local-
passed out or something.
No, that was very odd.
Do we have the
because
follow up on that? I probably shouldn't have brought it up.
I don't think
The
that
woman
that
went
was
in,
solved.
right? And
It was
people
a guy.
started passing. A guy
Yeah,
went
it
on a
was-
gurney, and people started passing out.
Oh no,
or something.
Look,
Or
it
getting-
was this very quickly. This is
Yeah.
this is a long time ago. So I know again, this is back when people got the newspaper and you read the newspaper stories, and then you got the next one for the next day or a week later, and you looked for the follow up.
Yeah, yeah.
And sometimes it would have it. So no, this young guy was brought in, I think in his 20s, and this was again a local Southern California, one of the outlying burgs here. Rialto or something, Diamond Bar, whatever it is, he gets brought in and he is giving off fumes that are
right.
toxic.
That's what it was. Yeah.
And I don't want to disparage him. I don't know if he was trying to commit suicide or if he accidentally ingested some kind of toxin. But basically, that's what happens. That you can get a good friend of mine who's a fireman. He's a fire captain.
Yes.
In the town where I might be from. We were talking about this, and he said, yeah, sometimes people who try to commit suicide with arsenic or something, when first responders show up and they get brought to the hospital, that can make first responders sick or hospital staff sick because it's now coming out of your pores. You're basically now a sock, doused with this stuff that's giving off fumes. And so he said, yeah, you got to be careful with that. Sometimes, you have to be aware, and they want to know, of course, what you took. So this gentleman's wheeled in. I don't know. They couldn't figure out what he had taken, but basically hospital staff were passing out. I believe a paramedic or two. Now, the most compelling thing is sure, you could say well, it's mass hysteria because that is a lineup for mass hysteria and that kind of thing where somebody starts, I don't feel well. I don't feel well either. And a fourth and a fifth person. We all don't feel well. We're all dizzy. We're all nauseous, and we have to sit down. That's kind of the breeding ground there for that type of mass hysteria. What the deal is with this one is that it was so noxious. I believe there's a woman who is an emergency room doctor. She passed out and suffered some kind of paralysis. She was out for a while, and I don't believe has ever recovered. And I believe she had to give up she couldn't practice medicine anymore. And we don't know what happened with that. Yes, again, that's happened when people take ant poison, and I think they tested for all those things. And so what was mysterious is that it was, and generally, it'll make you sick and maybe make you nauseous, but it was so strong that he was like a bomb. He was just people were just passing out and suffering permanent damage. So that was the interesting aspect of that.
Yeah.
Don't
Where's the follow up?
I don't know. Again, this is back.
We'll
This is maybe pre-internet, and I was looking. I was checking the paper, and every once in a while, I'm just listening to the news, see if and never heard anything. And sometimes that's the thing, you never hear anything because there is no follow-up answer.
Yeah.
Nobody ever finds out a good theory on anything. So
all right, so we've had a few other questions, and oh my gosh, so look who's in here. It's Corin who found us that copy of the
she is
Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam.
She's down under right now.
Yeah, she's down under. And also Tess is in here and several other people who are making strong requests for witch stories. Which, of course,
are you sure those are not all Tess? Tess, we love you, and we are going to do one, I promise.
Yeah.
And she's had some great suggestions because I don't know if it's like a pet topic of hers or she's kind of studied it or read books on the side, but she's very knowledgeable.
Yes.
So she's trying to get us, or I believe maybe tempt us to with a really good one. So, and that's the problem when it's a very broad one. She was saying well, how about the Scottish witch trials? Those were much more sensational and crazy than
Salem.
Or Salem. Our local ones here in New England. And there's plenty of them. It's we don't want to. The thing is, and she knows this, is that we try to spread out these topics here and there. So it's not like 5 witch episodes in a row, and it's we do. I love those, but I'm getting a little fatigued on those.
We have an internal term that we call topic fatigue,
which we suffer.
We usually get first.
We get first, but then oh my God, there's one more part of this. We got
you guys get it too. Yeah. So it's we do try to space things out, and just so you know, we're actually actively we're going to be down for 3 weeks, the last 2 weeks of December and the first week of January, which is the longest break we take annually.
Yes.
And during that time, which we will
it's a gift to both you and us.
Yeah, exactly.
Really. Yeah.
But we are going to be planning out. We're trying to plan the whole next year in advance. because we have a
Stop painting us into a corner.
No, we can do it.
Yeah,
We've
okay.
already got a list. We have a folder with thousands of ideas in it. People are sending ideas in. Someone else just asked if we had ever thought about doing a mailbag episode.
Well, it's a little bit like this.
Yeah, which we totally are going to be doing that because we get some really great emails. But we want to get out in front of our stories a little more so we have more time to round up people for interviews. And also
it
the
gets
arc
our
is ready
it
to
gets
work.
them kind of lined up to start poking around and just so you know, like what Tess will do is she'll start a kind of a chat column or a research column. So for each topic, because there's different fields that we look at. Is there any published articles or authority figures that have spoken out on this? And so
eyewitnesses.
Yeah, she'll kind of organize that, and so yeah, it's really a good way to get that kind of mapped out. And again, yes, we are filled with thousands of stories.
Yeah,
but again, a lot of it too is that and it sounds kind of strange, but we're sometimes struck with inspiration. In that, now again, people didn't like this one. Some really liked it. If you're a gamer, you probably dug it. But Polybius,
yeah,
I had heard about the name, and of course, it's in the Simpsons episode, and it's kind of fun. Didn't know the full story, but we were going to go see a movie, and I was driving over, and I can't remember if it came up on NPR, but I was listening to it, and I said, "Hey, have you ever heard of Polybius?" He's like, "No," and then I started explaining it to it. It was like, that's it.
We got to do that.
Yeah.
We got to do that. Yeah.
Because, and again,
sometimes that happens. It comes out of the blue, and even if we make a list for next year, that won't stop us from being struck, as you said, by inspiration. Because some stories are just like, how can we not cover this? And there's all kinds of things that are fascinating to me and that are on the possible list for next year. People keep asking about some of the big ones, like the Jersey Devil, which I just saw in the thread here.
That's Mothman level.
Yeah.
Because
it's a big one.
He also owns a hockey team.
Yeah.
Yes, it's
the
Napoleon's older brother, younger. Oh, jeez.
Oh, we've already done this.
No, I know. We
what did you say? It was his.
No. I said it was a close relative. So I thought
you were right.
it was a brother or a nephew. Right. And somebody wrote in, it's like, and then you're absolutely right.
They saw it outside a fort, right, or something.
They were at a fort, I believe. And again, he shot at it. It rolled in the sky, kept on going. Which
rolled in the sky.
Hey, that's Terry Sherman, Skinwalker Ranch. You shoot it, and a chunk of rotted bat meat comes flying off.
Yeah,
but it keeps on going.
Yeah.
That's a big one. So there are these very large topics that we get asked to do. That we know
they're going to be multi-parters.
That's going to be a Megillah, and it's going to take reading a couple of books and taking a while to cull and maybe even lining up an interview if we can get one. And speaking of that, we had one complaint on iTunes that I want to address. It's kind of just quickly, not that one. I do want to read one though. That is perhaps the best comment we've ever gotten from my standpoint.
The one I'm about to find. Hang on.
No, it's like look, we did. Somebody was saying like, hey, you know what? And again. People are complaining about the ads, and I get that. You're not used to that in this format. You get it everywhere else, but it helps keep us going.
Keeps the lights on.
It's a fact of life.
This
one
super
singular,
bright.
Which if it burns out, we have to pay out of our own pocket for a lot of expenses. So anyway, hopefully there are things you can use. But yes, it's going to happen if you listen to all the other podcasts I listen to that are kind of at this level. Have some kind of sponsorship, some kind of advertising. If you enjoy a podcast and they don't have any, well, they're probably just starting out and they're trying to build their audience. So at some point they can get the thing to pay for itself. So they probably will have ads and sponsorship later on. But in regards to this one comment, it was just somebody saying like, hey, I just listened to that interview with that Linda woman, and it was basically like 2 hours of an ad for her book, another ad. Like, and my thing was, have you heard any other author being interviewed anywhere about anything? That's what an interview with an author is. They have agreed kindly to come on your show.
And every single appearance on every television show, nighttime talk show, they're on there to plug something. They're not on there because they're bored.
No, or if hey,
in fact, they'd rather be at home. A lot of them.
Well, yeah,
because I know people that have done it.
They have to put pants on and get dressed up and wear.
I want to read this one review.
Okay, go ahead.
This is for, I thought in the spirit of Jimmy Fallon forcing his guests to read negative tweets. I think
that's
or not Fallon.
That's Jimmy Kimmel.
Kimmel.
Yeah, mean tweets.
Yeah, mean tweets. I wanted to read one of our recent reviews from November 1st on iTunes by Amory Abbott or Amory. I'm not sure.
Amory, thank you so much. This is probably the best review on iTunes, again, from my perspective, ever.
I've been listening to this podcast for several weeks now. The episodes are fantastic and intriguing, but a frustrating aspect of its listenability. Scott rudely interrupts Forrest all the time. That's in all caps, by the way. With annoying comments and reminders about erroneous information. Stop it, Scott. Forrest,
all caps as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Forrest rarely finishes a passage or article without being talked over or derailed by Scott. It's super annoying. Wait, hang on. I've got to click more here.
Oh, there's more.
And stalls out the flow of the story. The podcast is really awesome, but I'm having a hard time listening to any more if he keeps being so annoying and insensitive. All right. So, Forrest, I would just like to say, I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Hey, we've had to certainly work this out. I think we've come a long ways. What people don't realize is that, again, it's part of human nature. You can't blame anybody for this, but
thank you.
No. What I'm saying is it's once you put a recording device in your face or in front of your mouth and you have to speak, it's not the same. We try to make this very conversational, and a lot of people don't like that either. But you know what? This is how we like talking about these subjects. So it's always going to be in kind of that fun vein. And the people that write in and say like, hey, it's like a couple of friends at a bar or a coffee shop discussing these things. That's why I love it. You get it. That's why that's our format. That's how we're doing it. Plus, we're trying to make it informed. So it's not just like, I heard a story, I don't know where it came from, and blah, blah, blah. So
the truth is, I get excited. I get excited about these topics.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me not to chime in, but I'm trying to be better about not cutting
and I do
you
it
off.
too, like I'm doing now.
Well,
no, that's the thing. When we first start out, you're kind of fighting I'm excited. I want to jump in and say something, so I'm waiting for him to stop. The problem is that he doesn't stop. So then I'm like, so I have to jump in. Why do I have a comment on that? So that you jump in and try and say something, and then it's a mishmash. So once you hear that back a few times and you've done a few episodes, you realize like, okay, well that's not working. That's annoying us. And we could certainly, some people don't like it. Believe it or not, they've written in saying like, we like the jumbled banter and the, back and forth. Some people just really hate it. So you're never going to please everybody.
That's when Forrest will say to me, this is off the record, he'll be like, well, maybe we're just not the show for you.
Yes. Anybody, there's some shows that get, mostly all positive reviews, 5 stars. But if you track them over time, you'll see that, it's down to 4.5 because people write in. It's like there's people who don't like Radiolab. It's like, for me, it's like, what?
What's not to like?
It's what's not to like. But they did, you mentioned this and I don't like the tone and you're implying this and I don't believe in that. Again, it comes down to belief. So we get that. Look, they want to express their opinion and there's nothing wrong with that. But as far as our manners, I think it takes practice. I don't know where he's going.
I'll be right back.
How can you get to leave? I have to hold this thing down now by myself? All right, I'm just going to do what I just ramble, which is what I usually do. The point being is that it takes practice. So as we've done now 55 shows, we think we're getting better at it. We still get excited and we'll step over each other, but we're aware of it. So, and we're working to fix the problem. And now he's back. So.
Here I am. Right. Here's the broadcast news thing. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but you got to pull your shirt back. And sit on it.
I'm already sweating like Albert Brooks. So that's...
I turned the fire off.
Thank goodness, yeah. And I'm going to try and stop banging the chair. But see, again, it's all these little things that are... It's a bit of craftsmanship. And it's funny. It's like, I'm sure Chris Cogswell, one of our star members of the ARC there, will realize that like once you get on there and you may have written out notes and know exactly what you're going to say, but it's a little bit of showmanship to present it correctly. And he does a great job. He's got a lot of facts to go through. And the good thing in his camp, in his column, is that he actually knows what he's talking about. So yeah. And I'm sure he'll tell you as he's doing more shows now that you get more comfortable with it. You might, from feedback, kind of know what to leave in, what to leave out. That's another big thing too, is that with these, we could have 10 episodes probably on each topic, depending on what it is. But we just can't talk about everything.
Now, there's some that we've discussed that if we were more like Serial, for example, we could make a whole year out of Edgar Casey easily.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't know if 36 episode year. You could if you wanted to, but you could definitely do what Serial does or did with 12 or 13 episodes, which is what we like to call 3 months of work.
Well, yeah, it's like the Somerton Man. That's when you could have had 13 episodes on that, because it starts branching out into each area. Oh, to wrap that up, I don't know if we had a conclusion other than that we this is the thing. Mystery not solved. We still don't know who he is.
Right.
But he was probably an American. That was a big question.
Yeah.
Aluminum comb.
Which we said, by the way.
The gum, all the stitching, the tie, all that. It probably pointed to him being an American. So we do know that now.
Yes.
Or that's more likely.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's not necessarily more likely by the recent information.
Right.
But
if
we already knew he had a DNA that traced back to the east coast of North America.
Right.
And Thomas Jefferson specifically.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, he's to blame. So if that one, though, as a subject, though, that's one where, there's a lot of meat on the bone, pardon the expression, that you could have made a whole season out of that and ended with a kind of a cliffhanger kind of thing. And we often watch a lot of 48 Hours and Dateline and those kind of shows.
Yeah.
And you see how that kind of format could be stretched out. So that was the popular appeal of Serial.
Right.
Now, some things we try and I think just by it's so hard. I also want you to realize too, you fabulous listeners, that when we do a single topic, if we wrap it up in one episode, we immediately then, like the next morning, have to start on another one. And with our schedules, it's really hard. So if we could take one topic and at least break it into two pieces,
and in my case,
manageable.
there's a 7-year-old in the mix. So
he's not helping out.
Who I have to go get in about 30 minutes.
That's right. So it'll be me for another hour while he's picking
No, we'll be done.
Okay, thank
we'll
goodness.
Be done.
Okay.
Just quickly,
go ahead.
Before we go any further, we got to say we're going to take one more break here, and we'll be right back. Forrest, what time is it?
Who are you, Indrid Cold? It's almost 5. Why?
I got to go pick up the kid, and the wife's going to be home soon.
And you didn't go grocery shopping for dinner, did you?
No, but you know what? I don't have to. Blue Apron already did the shopping for me.
Oh, right. It's your Blue Apron day. So what are you making?
Brown butter and chestnut gnocchi with Brussels sprouts and pea shoot salad.
Ooh, fancy.
Yeah, most of the time it's stuff that'd be hard to find at my local grocery store. Plus, I can feel good about feeding it to my family because the beef, chicken, and pork are raised responsibly. The seafood is sourced I'm going to get you for this.
No,
the seafood.
You had it perfect in the rough read.
I know.
Yeah.
The seafood is sourced sustainably, and the produce is grown using regenerative farming. Not only that, all the packaging is recyclable or biodegradable. And Blue Apron only ships you what you need, so there's no food waste.
Wow, you're a hero to the planet as well as your family.
You know it. I'm also a hero to our budget because the meals are under $10 per person.
Yeah, it's hard to find even a fast food meal for that amount these days, and none of it's very good for you. But when you start off with high-quality ingredients, you end up with a high-quality meal.
Exactly. And Blue Apron is customizable. We can either choose from a variety of recipes each week based on what we feel like having, or let the Blue Apron culinary team surprise us. There's several delivery options to choose from, and since there's no weekly commitment, we only get deliveries when we want them.
Well, I can't think of any reason not to try it out. And Blue Apron also makes a great holiday gift.
Check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals free with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/astonishing. You'll love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home-cooked meals with Blue Apron, so don't wait. That's blueapron.com/astonishing.
Blue Apron, a better way to cook. What are you doing? Are you on your phone under the table?
No, go ahead. I'm listening.
You say that all the time. Clearly you haven't been listening to my witty rant.
Sorry, I'm having trouble finding the right gift for a hard-to-shop-for person.
Well, here's an idea. How about a Harry's limited edition gift set?
Oh, okay. Now I'm actually listening to you.
Well, check this out then. This holiday, Harry's is offering their limited edition shaving set, which comes with a midnight blue chrome razor handle, which you can get engraved with a person's initials.
Oh.
3 of Harry's German-engineered 5-blade cartridges, a foaming shave gel that really works and smells terrific, and it all comes in a really classy-looking gift box. Now, you can get all of this for $30 on Harrys.com. You're going to pay almost that much for just a pack of 8 blades at the store, and a super smooth, close shave is something everyone can use, men and women.
Well, I do know that if you want to try them out yourself, Harry's offers starter sets with blades and handles starting at just $10. Or treat yourself with a gift set this holiday season.
Right, but you better act fast because free shipping ends December 9th, so don't wait.
And as a special offer for our fans, I've personally arranged a deal with Harry's to give you $5 off your order when you enter the code LEGENDS at checkout.
You just negotiated that right now on your phone.
Once again, free shipping ends on December 9th, so act now. Go to harrys.com right now to get a limited edition holiday shave set while supplies last. And don't forget to enter the code LEGENDS at checkout for $5 off. That's harrys.com, code LEGENDS.
My name is Nancy Rodriguez. Scott and Forrest want to thank you for partaking in tonight's episode of Astonishing Legends.
Are we doing a nice flash cut? How are we coming back in?
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Okay, very good.
We'll leave it. We might just leave this alone for you two.
Yeah, I'm sure that's fine. They're not
There is something else I wanted to talk about. Again,
yeah, we have a couple of big questions coming up, too.
Yeah, I wanted to come back to the rules again. Oh, and also I want to say hey to Tim Coonahan, who's in the chat room right now. TJ. He's a great friend of the show, and I actually during my travels over Thanksgiving, I managed to hook up with him, and we played blackjack, which was
with a couple
of
of people and one remotely.
Yes,
via Skype.
Yes,
yeah,
with one remotely, and we had a great time. And he has his own show called Pints and Puzzles, which is an excellent podcast. If you guys want to check that out, I would say to enjoy it. It's a very unique format. And I really enjoy listening to that show, and I also enjoy Tim's personality.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
So let's come back to the rules again. People have asked somebody, I would get a PDF of that. Truth is, we are thinking about trying to figure out how to maybe put that into a book, but it's got to be
an animated VR experience. Is 3D.
That's a good idea. We're cutting edge, right?
If you could do that, that'd be very scary.
We don't have a whole lot of free time at the moment.
What do people want to know about it?
Well, they saying that they want to see it written out. Then they would buy a PDF.
You want me to tell you what the actual?
How does it work? What are the rules?
What are the rules?
Yeah, I mean you've got so many of them, I guess. But
there we go.
A lot of them...
Sorry, we just had a blip. I think our logo here in the back went out for a second.
Oh, did it? That's weird.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe it's because we're talking about the rules.
It's also getting dark outside, so I think the exposure is adjusting.
Oh, yeah. I see. Okay. So it adjusted for that.
Yeah.
Here's the deal on the rules. It's not really formal. It's I think what people are talking about is that after you've seen hundreds and thousands of not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds of stories, that maybe thousands of accounts, and you've kind of read up on them or heard them from different people, the biggest thing I can say is that you will start to see patterns. If I'm good at anything, it's probably being observant and seeing patterns in things, which humans are innately, trained to do. Because it's a survival thing. If you want to go back to caveman times, it's like, hey, Ugg go out, tiger track, Ugg dead. That's the pattern. Like tiger track, don't go there.
Right.
So when you start to hear these stories and you start to hear things being repeated, ways of things happening, that's really kind of what it is. Why do certain things seem to happen, and why do other things seem not to happen? If you believe this, and you believe that this is, item A is possible, why does item B always seem to follow? Or why does item C never seem to happen? Case in point, it's like, look, if you believe that, the deceased go on to become spirits and some are trapped in a different plane and they're able to visit us, some go on to the white light and into the light and this house is clean.
Go to the light.
This house is clean. If you believe any of that and at all, or is that some people are kind of like don't know where they are. They were again, as they always say, if you died very tragically quickly, you weren't prepared, you were murdered, you were in an accident, something happened, something tripped up your trip to the other side, wherever you're supposed to go.
Speed bump.
Yeah, if you were in that realm, and some people are good, some people are bad. Some people interact with you. They try and help. It's a little girl in the Sixth Sense who wants to solve her own murder by Munchausen's proxy from her own mom. There's something that they want to happen.
I don't know how he remembers details like that
in
subplots. I don't know how he does that. And then all the people and the names he knows. That was why when I was like, because someone else asked what inspired us to get started.
It's the single malt scotch he got me right before the show. Or it really hinders. It's one or the other.
I did. Well, it's your birthday. So
Thank you very much.
Yes,
Yeah.
happy
Okay.
birthday to Forrest, or Uncle
Yeah.
Forrest, as all our friends call him.
There you go.
Seriously, and that's why I got the single malt. But
Thank you so much. Very, very much appreciated. That's
yeah.
not what this is. Diet A&W
Yeah.
root beer, which is all he had in the fridge.
yeah,
so.
we found out the hard way that more than a few drinks is not good for an episode.
There's
but,
a very fine line where it's just comedy genius,
yeah.
and then it's just mumbling and rambling, even more so.
I'm not sure it's
Mixed
ever,
with a lot more slurring from me. So
I'm not sure it's ever genius, but
Okay.
But I do want to say that. Well, I lost my train of thought.
well, you were amazed that I remember.
Oh yeah, all the stuff that
no,
you somebody had asked how
Yeah.
how were we lots of people are saying happy birthday. Everyone
thank
is
you.
saying happy
Thank
birthday.
you so much.
Look at all these nice people.
Oh.
Kelly Park, Terry Favor, whose name I said wrong on the show. I'm correcting it
Favre?
right now.
Favre?
Yeah, I said Favre. I thought Brett
It's
Favre,
Favre.
but he doesn't have an I. Brett, does he?
No, it's Favre.
Yeah, so Terry, I said your name.
Favre. He
There
just
we
goes
go.
by Favre, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Thank you so much. Thank you to all of you. You really are the ones that make this possible. Keep us going, because we would have done half the amount of shows if no one was ever listening. So finally realizing by 25 shows, we should stop this.
Yeah.
Other than it's fun to get together and talk about this stuff, which is why we started in the first place.
which is what we were already doing. And
Yeah.
when we were sort of germinating the idea of starting a show, to whomever asked earlier about what motivated us, we found that a lot of people seemed to be interested in the topics that we were constantly talking about. We both had exposures to different areas
Yeah.
of them. Forrest's information is a lot more detail-oriented than mine. I have a large collection of broad strokes of stories.
He's
But
heard
it's
about
it's
so
on
many
the
things.
surface.
Yeah,
And I saved that part of it. I
Yeah.
saved the title of the story, and I saved the first paragraph of the story. Forrest saves the middle names of the characters. So,
Not always. It's
but
really
it's
it's about something that grabs me, and it makes, again, it could be subconscious. It makes a connection, but it's like when you talk about the rules, and I talk about being observant. And sometimes I'll tell Scott it's the button of a story that's the little hook that well, this was weird, that happened, and then this happened, and that puts a whole different spin on it. It's like with The Sixth Sense. It's I went to film school, so I've always been interested in filmic stories and cinematic stories and getting turning a real life event or something, and how does that make a good, what we talked about earlier, how does an event or an idea become a good show? It's different. A great idea may not make a great movie. I had a great, Edward Dmytryk was a great old time film director. Worked with every big name in film. Marlon Brando, Montgomery Clift, all the names that you younger folks are not even going to know who they are, but you older folks will. But he told me it's sometimes you have a great springboard idea, but it never turns into a great story. Just quickly, and then we're we get to divulge here or digress and depart.
Yeah.
Because this is all new frontier for us. There was a great idea being kicked around Hollywood in the late 40s, early 50s about a Pony Express mailbag being found in current era. So it'd be like the late 50s, early 60s when he was at his height. And they open the bag and it's all these undelivered letters. So the post office, they deliver the letters, and how does this? So the story follows, how do you follow all these people? And it changed all these lives.
Right.
Getting this new information like, Grandpa Joe murdered 4 people. What the what?
Yeah.
Or I've hid a stash of gold coins up in Bandit Mountain, and if you can go find them. And it's like, that's a great idea. That's a great springboard idea. And what Professor Dmytryk said, like, it just no one could ever do anything with it. They couldn't
figure out how to make it work.
All the best screenwriters in Hollywood at the time, and there were some greats. Nobody could make it work. Although it was like great. So anyway, getting back to what makes a good episode. Or what makes a good story is that it has to round itself out and have certain elements. It's generally hard to talk about something as we said earlier where it's just one item. So if it's getting back to the rules, or I'm sorry, The Sixth Sense, that's what it was. An emotional connection, and how do I remember this stuff? When that scene when it's the wake of the funeral, and there's 2 parts of that movie that really choked me up. And that's one of them, when they come in and he hands the box and it's the videotape and the father's just so distraught and people are trying to console him.
Oh yeah.
And he puts the tape in, and
even I remember that scene.
I'm going to start crying here.
Yeah.
He puts the tape in, and he's so happy he sees his daughter again.
Yeah.
And then he sees the mom put the Lysol or whatever. It's like, don't, eat the soup. Don't tell me it tastes funny.
Yeah.
The next shot where it's just the mom and she looks up, and this is great directing.
Spoiler alert, by the way.
It's been out, 15 years now. You should have seen it by now. No, and again, this is good direction. It's Hitchcockian in a way. You see the mother's expression and she looks up, and then the next shot is just everybody standing, just looking like, how could you do that? And then she just cuts back to her and she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Just the emotion there. You don't have to come out and say it. You just know what they're feeling. And then of course the other one was at the end when, and the way it's, again, this is good writing where he phrases it. It's, he's talking to Toni Collette, is the mom, and Haley Joel Osment says, I'm ready to tell you my secret, blah, blah, blah. And I have an answer from grandma. And again, this is how you work the button, is that and he says, the answer is every day. Toni Collette, his mom, starts crying, and he goes, why are you crying? What was the question? And he's like, do I make you proud? Oh, so anyway, yeah. So getting back to the rules and the way things happen is, okay. So my earlier thing is like, if you died and you believe that people are trapped, well, you got to believe that some people are good. Some people are serial killers. If they could go around randomly from the spirit world and keep on murdering people, don't you think they'd be doing that? If they like, I got free reign, no one can see me. I can sneak in and I can fling knives at people. Or what I've noticed is that I've never, and this may have happened, and I just don't know about it, but I've never heard of something. I've certainly heard of poltergeist activity where fires are started, knives are flung into the wall, and it just was inches above my head. No, I've never heard of one like it stuck in my eye and killed somebody. Or a gun mysteriously went off with no one holding it and it shot somebody. There seems to be a reason that direct murder, killing of somebody, does not happen, or maybe is not allowed to happen. So then it brings into question, who's not allowing this to happen? Well, I have my answer, and you probably have yours, if you believe anything like that at all. But really the question is, I believe that there are negative forces that can influence people that are vulnerable, that are emotionally in a weak place. They could be depressed or on drugs or something, but basically it's the forces that kind of chip away at you. And that can lead to, again, as we saw in the sludge entity, it can drain you down. And so it wasn't like a magic scarf wrapped around some member of the family and choked them to death. That does not seem to happen, but the slow whittling away of your life force, your energy, your good health does seem to happen in certain cases. So again, so the rules really are things that seem to take place. And again, look, there's Michelle Belanger, could be Belanger, but she's been on Jim's show, Jim Harold, the Paranormal podcast, where he does his interviews with authors that are plugging their books. And that's what the show is. When she's written a book about, basically, it's basically Tobin's spirit guide. Yeah. It's naming a lot of different demons. There's power in a name. Again, part of the rules. What power is that? Yeah. In a name, why do you have to ask? Why does it give you some edge to know the name of whatever entity it is you're dealing with? But again, if you believe this whole game, that makes a difference. So, but she's written a great book, and so there are people who are more studied than us, who actually are scholarly and study these things and make a lifetime of it, and have written books on maybe why these kind of things happen. And they all kind of vary. So the ones I've heard about, especially past life, we get a lot of questions about the afterlife and doing shows about that, or the other side. Jim even has a whole section of podcasts called The Other Side. And we don't really dive into it, but it's basically, again, from all these stories that we've heard, it's just noticing certain patterns of why certain things seem to happen the way they do. If you don't believe any of this, then none of it matters. There's no rules apply. We're all just misinterpreting what either we or someone else has been saying.
All right. Well, we're getting near to where we're going to be wrapping up.
Already?
This.
Jeez,
well, no, we got a few minutes left.
Okay.
I did want to say, first of all, to people who are listening to this as a podcast and wondering why we didn't discuss a particular astonishing legend for the entire episode, that is because this, I'm reminding everyone, was a live episode and was streamed live on YouTube, and we did not announce it as happening until about 30 minutes before.
weren't sure it was
and there's a
gonna
reason
work.
for that. We didn't know if
Yeah.
it was going to work. We didn't know if we would have all the tech sorted out, if the streaming software was going to crash every 5 minutes, if the computers would work right, if the microphones would work right, and all that kind of stuff. So we didn't necessarily want to announce it to our full listener base, which
and
is
further embarrass us even
Yeah.
more so than we already have. Oh,
Right.
I'm sorry, again, to interrupt you quickly. I don't know if, again, this is what happens if you were sitting at a restaurant or a bar or coffee shop with us, and then it's like an hour later, like, you didn't answer my question. Like,
yeah.
Because we just love to ramble on about different topics and be very circuitous. But as far as the rules, one day we might kind of start to put this all together. But
Coffee table book.
Coffee table book from total, just boneheads who are not officials, an official
It could
stance
also
on
be
anything.
a coffee table. The legs. No,
It
sorry.
could.
Well,
You could have a
Seinfeld.
different idea. Yes, it could also be a different idea. So yeah, for those of you, because we have had a lot of people that have asked, it's like as we go along, we'll try and put down things that happen, and hopefully, we would get a collaboration with somebody who actually knows what they're talking about. So
Yeah.
in this realm, and kind of formalize this, and you'll see different aspects of it in different books. But anyway, to answer that question, from our standpoint, we're going to try and do something like that.
Yes.
But I tell you what, if you have a specific question, like maybe we've heard, and certainly we're not experts. People will sometimes ask us, it's like, what is going on with this? This happened to me. I don't know what's happening. It's like, well, we can try and tell you what's happened to other people that we've heard of, or give us our best opinion, but we're certainly not experts on anything, as most all of you have figured out by now. So
Yes, and I hello, Fawaz. I can't believe you're in here. This one of our listeners who I sent a hat to lives in the Middle East.
Oh,
Very
cool.
glad to have you watching the show.
Hello.
But what I was going to say was that the next time we do this, we will announce it well ahead of time, and we'll do it during one of our regular episodes, which we'll be back to next week. Tess, Chris, Maria, everyone who's in the ARC who is watching this, we still haven't figured out next week's show.
Hey, don't. Yeah.
In the morning, I'm
we
going to work
have,
on it.
No, we have some very
We
we
have
have some very good leads, but this is
okay.
what we were talking about earlier. Is that once you do like a one-off, and it's like we can't relax and rely and formulate a part 2 and conclusion on this thing. You immediately have to start on the next thing. We've already had some great leads on research in a couple of different areas that I don't know we don't want to announce because they're going to be a surprise. But I just want to say, Tess, great work. The rest of you, Chris and Marie, your little side thing, very interesting.
Oh,
We'll
yes.
be looking at that.
Yes.
I do look at the stuff. I'm in there. I do
Yeah,
look, but it's
never
but
comments.
I
He's
just
talking about the research core.
Yes, our
which is
chat
run on a
stream.
third-party app called River,
Right.
where I am a lot more apparently present, but Forrest is lurking in there. I did want to mention one other thing, though, very quickly. We'd written a little bit of a script to share with you guys, and then I'm glad the only major issue we had before we started was that my printer wouldn't print it, so we had nothing, which is fine because we're kind of used to that. But I did want to mention that we are making our first live appearance on stage at the Lorenzo Cultural Center, which is connected to Macomb Community College in Detroit, on May 4th at 7 p.m. as part of a series that they're having on folklore and tall tales as they relate to Michigan.
Yeah, Michigan specific, but there's a real wealth of great stories, cryptids and spooky things happening, and a lot of historical things. It's a very old area. The whole area. So.
And that's going to be a lot of fun. So if you're in Detroit or in the Michigan area, or you can make it to that, you have from now until May 4th to figure out how to get there. It's my understanding it's actually free, but they do take a registration for a head count, and we'll have more information coming out about that.
Yeah, that'll be posted. It's a community center. It's a cultural center.
Yeah, it's a cultural center that's connected to
auditorium
the
type of affair.
Yes, and we'll also be doing separately, possibly a 1-hour Q&A on podcasting at the same event.
We'll also be doing a Mythbusters type of event, but that would be awesome. We're going to blow something up.
Yeah.
No, we need
cogs for that.
I think it's probably a few topics and maybe a Q&A session afterwards.
Yeah. So we're working on that. I did want to let everyone know about that. And again, we'll give you a bigger heads up next time if you're just hearing this as a podcast and you're wondering why the format is so different. And
it's probably going to sound a little boomier and roomier. We are in another space without really high tech blankets encasing
Blanket
us.
Fortiana.
Blanket Fortiana. which is it's gonna So if you're wondering, if you're just tuning in, I don't know how you do that. You scrubbed ahead about an hour and then starting here, but it will sound different. And let us know how you like this format. I mean, it's again, it's probably it's more fun to do because we didn't have to really dive down deep for a week and a half and get this all jammed into our heads.
You may be seeing this again as an emergency
if you liked
show.
It. Yeah.
And
it's our clip show, which is our best
It gives us a little bit of a break in terms of prep. Our prep for this was primarily technical, and we didn't have to be buried in research, which helped because it was Thanksgiving and I was traveling and dealing with a lot of other stuff the past 2 weeks. So it was difficult to prep for something more complex for this particular episode anyway, but we want to keep doing the show and we know you guys are expecting us. And we also, again, I wanted to remind everyone that we're about to do 3 shows in a row. That'll be this one followed by 2 more. And then we're breaking for 3 weeks for Christmas and we'll be back the second week in January, but we'll keep you posted on that.
So when's the next thing? That is coming out a week from
the next episode. It's due to be posted a week from today, and this one's going to be a day late, I think. So
it's getting late in the day here.
There's
some other elements. There's always post production. It's not one of your YouTube stars where they upload. Even then though, I just saw a few for the first time because I'd heard so much buzz about them and why do they have 46 million followers and make $1 million a year. PewDiePie. And there's a lot of graphics. It's like there's a little bit of work that goes on. He doesn't just flick the iPhone on and start talking. There's a lot of post that goes with that, and it seems very seamless. But if you knew what he had to do, or someone's doing on the back end, there's a little bit of production. So same thing with us is that for this to be an audio feed to appear in your podcast feed, whatever your platform is, to hear it as a regular show. We still have stuff to do. So we're going to take care of that a little bit tonight. I think we're going to give ourselves a little bit of a break and then dive into that tomorrow. So probably Thursday evening, wherever you are, you will be visited by 3 ghosts and this podcast. So we'll be, I just watched it. I'll send that as a link. I just watched my favorite version of A Christmas Carol, which is an animated. It's only about 20 minutes long. It's a short story, of course. Richard Williams produced.
Nice.
And Chuck Jones, executive producer from the general region, starting off.
I've seen that, yes.
I sent that to you. It creeped me out as a kid in a very good way. But it looks nothing else like any other version of A Christmas Carol you've seen, because the idea was really, it's one of the first and greatest ghost stories about Christmas. And it's meant to scare you into being good. So, like every good ghost story, there's usually an element there that is a cautionary tale, and to do better as a human being. So,
well, there you go. Well, on that note, we're going to sign off for today. We'd like to thank you for joining us for our very first live streaming broadcast, and hopefully not the last.
Well, unless you really all hate it, and then let us know, and we promise never to do this again. We'll
get back behind the mics and behind the camera.
We'll have 90 minutes of Lou, the astonishing dog, who's taking a nap currently. It'll just be her and her antics. So, but seriously, let us know what you liked about it, what you didn't like, if you want to see this again. And all I can tell you from experience is that we're going to get all of that. It'll be in various amounts. Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
See you guys next time.
This broadcast is now terminating.
Well, that's going to wrap it up for our first live show.
We'd like to thank Squarespace, Movement Watches, Blue Apron, and Harrys.com for sponsoring us. Please remember that supporting our sponsors helps support the show.
We want to give a special heartfelt thanks to Fiddleback, whose podcast, GM Word of the Week, is a show for role-playing gamers who want to improve their vocabulary and their games. We support each other on Patreon as well. Thanks for the broadcast tech advice, Fiddleback.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Cox.
I'm Erin Humphreys. My name is Nancy Rodriguez.
And I give permission
to Astonishing Legends to use my voice for the show to use however they see fit.
Galaxy-wide in perpetuity.
Our show is edited by Sarah Voorhees, and the theme is by Judson Crane.
Sound design is by Ryan McCullough.
Special thanks to the ARC and its lead researcher, Tess Feifel. We'd also like to thank John Bolin.
But most importantly, we want to thank our listeners. You can find us online at astonishinglegends.com, as well as Facebook, Patreon, Twitter, Tumblr, Google+, and Instagram.
Copyright Scott Philbrook.
And Forrest Burgess. Good night.